Hello and welcome to pmclounge.com. Today we are talking about sequence activities process. This process is of course a part of the schedule management knowledge area, and as the name goes, this has something to do with sequencing the activities. Let's get into the thick of the things. Now, if you're wondering where do this process falls, where are we right now in the PGKA mapping? So as you can see, this is the project schedule management. This is the knowledge area. The process group is planning process group, and we are talking about sequence activities process. By the way, we have already covered plan schedule management, and we have also covered define activities process. The link to all the videos of the project schedule management knowledge area, the entire playlist, is available in the description, so you can definitely check that out. This video will also be a part of that playlist itself. So in the end, when we are done with the project schedule management knowledge area, all the processes will be part of this playlist. So keep that handy. I'll share the link in the description. So sequence activities, as you can see, is part of the planning process group in the project schedule management knowledge area. There used to be another activity here, estimate activity durations and estimate activity resources, which has now moved to the resource management knowledge area as part of the PMBOK edition 6. So we will cover that process in the resource management knowledge area when we reach there. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about the sequence activities process. So the main aim of this process, as the name goes, you basically create a sequence of the activities. But other than that, the main aim of this process is to identify and document relationships among the project activities. So what are the relationships between different project activities? To identify them, to document them, that is the main aim of the sequence activities process. Relationships, when we say relationship, it basically means dependencies. What kind of dependencies do different project activities have amongst themselves? So you need to identify them and you need to document them. A quick reminder here, if you are looking for PMP book recommendations, go to this link, pmclounge.com/resources. This is where you'll find the books that are handpicked by us for your PMP preparation. Now let's quickly look into the major inputs and outputs of this process. If you have been following us for quite some time, you already know that we don't get down to each and every single input, tools and techniques and output of every process, because that's not the way we think you should be preparing for your PMP exam. PMP exam is not about learning the PGK, all the processes, all the tools and techniques, inputs, outputs. No, sir, it is not about that. But it is extremely important for you to look into the major inputs and outputs so as to make much more sense of every process. So we will be talking about major inputs and outputs of this process here. The outputs of the previous process, which is the define activities process. If you remember the PGKA chart that I showed you in the beginning of this video. So there's a process known as define activities. The outputs of those process. By the way, we have already covered them in the video, so the playlist in the description will help you understand them and refresh your concepts up if you have forgotten them. So the outputs of the define activities process, which are basically activity attributes, these are the major outputs, by the way, not the only ones. So you've got the activity attributes, you've got activity list, and you've got milestone list. So these are three important outputs of the define activities process. These become the major inputs of the sequence activities process. So the outputs of the define activities process become the inputs of the sequence activities process. So this is something important. Now, why, you may ask? Because these three, the activity attribute, the activity list, and the milestone list, these contain information regarding the dependencies or the relationships, especially predecessor and successor project activities. So all the project activities will be listed in the activity list, but in the activity attributes, you will find information about the dependencies or the relationships that these activities have with each other. Is there an activity B which should be done only after activity A is complete? Is that a successor activity, right? Is B a successor activity of A? Information like this is available in the activity attributes, and that is why it is an important input of sequence activities process. So you might have already understood by now. We covered this in a previous video. I'll share the link for that as well. By the way, it's available in the playlist itself. So we talked about the network diagram, which was one of the ways to show your project schedule, other than the two other ways which we talked about, the milestone chart and the Gantt chart, and the other one is the network diagram. So of course, when you're talking about dependencies, when we are talking about relationships, the the schedule of the project, right? It is represented in network diagram, and these dependencies are shown, are mapped, are drawn as part of the network diagram. So the network diagram is going to show all the relationships between the different project activities, and this is definitely a major output of the sequence activities process. Now, the other thing to note here is when you're creating the network diagram, the project team may realize that some of the activities were missed during the define activities process. So when we were doing the define activities process, we came up with the list of activities, but it is possible that we missed out some activities. And that is when you are drawing the network diagram, you're putting together the dependencies in place, you realize that some of the activities were missed. Now, this is of course not true 100% of the time. You may have created a list of all the activities in the first go itself, in the define activities process itself. In that case, you will not find any new activity, right? But if you do, then it is important to note that these inputs, activity attributes, list, and milestone list, can also get updated and become outputs of the sequence activities process. I hope that was clear, that activity attributes, activity list, and milestone list are inputs to this process. But while preparing the network diagram, you may realize that you missed out on a few activities or more than a few activities, and you will update the activity list so that the activity list becomes an output of this process as well. So that's pretty much all that we had in this video. Do hit the like button if you enjoyed and learned something new. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon if you haven't done so already. And check us out on our social media. PMC Lounge is our handle on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And as always, do check out the website pmclounge.com, the #1 free PMP resource. If you're into reading, if you want to read about this process, go over to pmclounge.com. The link will also be available in the description under the related article head. Thanks and have a nice day.